Good evening. It's 6 o'clock on Tuesday, the 16th of June. And regular Sarah, S.J. Banham, is here with me. Lovely to see you as always, Sarah. We're
Hi.
going to talk about podcasts. I used to be a very prolific listener of podcasts back in the day. My favourite is Writing Excuses. And the tagline I've created today, a new page on a podcast with some links to various sites, and I'll develop that page as time goes on. And and I used to listen to them prolifically walking the dog, and now I kind of don't. So I really should get back into it. So this was a good topic to get me
Yeah,
back on that road. Um, so as a listener, do you listen to podcasts?
it'd be awful if I said at this point, no, I didn't, wouldn't it? No, I do. I go through phases of, I'm still trying to get my voice back, as you can hear.
Oh, yeah,
I'm, I go through phases of listening to audiobooks and listening to podcasts
mm,
interleave, really. And I generally do it when I'm at the gym, and I'm at the gym probably about 5 times a week. So there's quite a long time, quite a lot of times I
yes,
can listen in. And obviously I've got my own one, but I generally do listen to writing related ones of
mm,
all of the kinds that are out there. It's, I would say more often than not, it's either writing related or movie related, as in an actor is talking about a movie they were in type of
okay,
movie.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
background.
yeah, so I think anything, script writing or um, the only one I'm probably 100% on would be poetry, and that's only because I find poetry just a little bit tough. I can write it, but
Mm,
sharing it is very tough.
right.
Um, so
Is
yeah,
that because it's
anything.
very personal? Because
It
poetry
is
is often
very.
very personal, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's probably the reason. Because I'm not a big poet, but when I do write, it's because I'm in a dark place. Or
Right.
if I'm writing something very, very light-hearted, it comes out like Spike Milligan's silly verse type of thing.
Okay.
So I'm either one or the other. There's no sort of balance with me. You've probably
Yeah.
figured that out by now after all
Right.
these years.
See, I've never, because I have written poetry, but I don't really write it, and I don't read it, and it's something I want to get back into. I know we've diverted from podcasts, but presumably there are a lot of poetry podcasts out there. Do you listen to poetry podcasts?
Not not overly. I'd probably be more interested in character development
Right.
or plot development of
Yeah.
fiction. Although I have listened to non-fiction as well.
Mm,
Yeah, I think it's the things that I find are I would like to say my strengths in writing, but probably the things I'm excited by in
right.
writing are the things I'm going to listen to more. Um, Not that long ago, maybe a year or a year and a half, I was writing a non-fiction book. I can't for the life of me remember which one. One of those above me.
Okay. Yeah.
I was writing one of those, and I was a little bit. I got myself in a bit of a twizzle about what to do next. I think it was on structure, funnily enough.
Mm,
And I listened to a podcast on non-fiction, but it was about editing non-fiction, and that was really helpful.
mm,
Can't for the life of me remember what it is, which is really no use tonight. But it was really helpful because there were tips in it that you could apply to fiction as well.
sure.
So whatever you took on board, you could add it to both. Which,
Yeah.
from my point of view, that's really good because obviously I write both.
Yeah. And do you find the length of the episodes vary? Because we were talking about, I think it was non-fiction the other day, and one of the Andrea, who's a regular, she said that because most of these episodes go at least half an hour, up to, I mean, we have run for an hour and a half, 2 hours even, one particular topic. And so I don't know whether I think it's fairly universally known that our attention spans are reduced these days. And so whether there are, presumably the podcasts you listen to vary in length. And it's like, because I said to her, well, I don't mind as long as the my guests are willing to talk until we can't talk anymore. If I know in advance that someone has to go early, then that's absolutely fine. But I think because these end up on YouTube, anybody watching can pause if they've got to go, or but obviously if there's a 15-minute episode and somebody's got 15 minutes, they're more likely to want to sit through the whole thing, especially if
Yeah,
they're not going to necessarily go back to it in a short amount of time.
yeah.
And
Sorry.
no, I was going to, and there's a podcast. My favourite is Writing Excuses, and their tagline is "It's 15 minutes long because you're in a hurry and we're not that smart," and they really are. It's been going for years, and hundreds of episodes, and they are so clever. There was a panel of them that started, and every little while one drops out and another one it comes in, and there are regular guests, and they have a certain format, which hasn't changed that much over the years, but they are so knowledgeable about everything. I think initially it was sort of science fiction fantasy, but it has gone off on different tangents. And as you say, the skills we learn for a particular genre or non-fiction versus fiction can easily be adapted to whatever we're writing, because it's character setting, plot, start, middle, and end, isn't it? Ultimately,
Yeah,
so
yeah. I
certainly with fiction.
with the ones I listen to, when I say regularly, if I'm not listening to an audiobook,
Mm,
I do tend to go back to the same ones over and over. Sarah Werner's the Right Now podcast is one of my favorites, and
okay,
that's roughly 30 to 40 minutes long, which,
right.
from my point of view, that's a gym session. Um, and if it's a 20-minute one, that I can listen to. So, it works out perfectly.
Uh,
And I'm a total sucker when it comes to certain American accents. To me, it's like honey dripping off the spoon.
nice.
Absolutely. I just
So,
love it. And weirdly, I absorb more if I'm enjoying what I'm listening to.
yes,
Similar to audiobooks.
audiobooks. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
if it's read by somebody with a scratchy voice, I can't listen to that.
No, there was one, I can't remember her name, but there was I think a very southern um,
Um,
accent, Patricia Cornwell narrator, who I think had done a lot of her books, and I really struggled understand it because her accent was so strong.
right.
I was struggling with some of the things that she, and when, because you're not seeing it in on the actual words, I didn't get very far. And she's one I don't listen to because I find her accent is so strong. Um,
Yeah, it's important though, isn't it? It's
it is.
important what you're listening to and the pitch.
Mm,
And like I've obviously tonight, a little bit of a dry throat. I've obviously spoken too much at the weekend.
oh,
But it comes and goes, which my husband is thrilled about.
right.
But you can record a podcast, and but well, for me personally, by the end of it, I will
Mm,
probably sound like this. But generally speaking, yeah, if your voice is smooth and rounded and you're not tripping over your words,
mm,
and you want to get out what you want to get out. So
sure.
yeah.
So were you an avid listener before you created your own, and how did that come about?
Weirdest story actually, Morgan. You've heard the story about me having a radio show, haven't you?
I think so. I must have done. We've
Just
known
to
each other for
recap
quite
it.
some time, but
Yeah.
yeah, do.
Well,
do.
just to recap,
Mm,
years and years and years ago when I published my first three books, which was back in 2006, 7, somewhere around there,
mm,
I'd gone to local radio stations to talk about them and promote them because each of the books were in different genres. So I was talking about them on local radio stations
mm,
and the BBC as well. And I got to a particular radio station, which was a community radio station. So it's run by volunteers, quite local.
mm.
And I did maybe 3 interviews over the space of about a month on there. And the social manager really enjoyed what I was talking about. And I was ever so excited. You know what I'm like once I
Oh,
start going.
yeah.
And it's, a total shock to me to find out the rest of the world isn't as excited about writing as
Oh,
I am. Really?
oh.
Why?
How could they not?
Um, yeah, exactly. So that was a little bit of a shock to me. But
Oh,
afterwards, the station manager said to me, if you ever have any ideas for a radio show itself, let us
mm,
know. I thought I've done a lot of being guests on BBC radio, local radio,
Mm.
loads over the years. And then when the station manager said that, I thought I don't do radio. I listen to it. I'm not,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not that side of the mic.
right.
And the idea just wouldn't let me go.
Mm.
And then some ridiculous time, like 2 in the morning, I thought, you know what? I probably have enough knowledge to present a radio show at half an hour, maybe. Yeah, I've got enough knowledge. We can talk about fiction, non-fiction,
Sure.
independent publishing, self-publishing,
Oh.
traditional publishing, all kinds of stuff. So there's
Mm.
plenty of, material there. So I messaged them and they came back and said, yay, let's do it. Oh, what? I was totally expecting them to say no.
No.
And then I presented a show called Writer's Block for 9 years. I don't even know
Wow.
how it happened, but it happened over four different radio stations.
Wow.
And so after I finished, because that was voluntary work, after I finished, which was
Mm.
2019, I the next natural organic step was to do the podcast, and I played around with the podcast a couple of years before I'd finished radio, because the original idea was to use the shows, because I used to have guests on, use the shows on the podcast as well. So there'll be I don't think many of the radio shows were recorded back then,
Right.
as they are now. So I was going to put it on my podcast. And podcasting back then was really, really complex. I had no clue how the tech it was just, no, it was just horrid
Mm.
for me. And then when my radio show finished, I thought, you know what, I'm going to play around with the podcast idea again. This was about 2019, 20. I think I started it in 2019, but
Mm.
in 20 released it. And that was when the Versatile Writer was born. And
Okay.
I've been doing it ever since. So yeah, it was the next natural step for me, I think. But presenting radio, because I did two shows actually, one on writing and one on classical music.
Mm.
So it was kind of related in as much as classical music, movie soundtracks, script writing, movies, and creative
Right.
writing. So there's a very sort of tenuous link, but it was linked.
Yeah.
Um, and that was really about dipping my toe into classical music, me learning it rather than, because I know loads about which tracks, melodies, couldn't
Mm.
tell you what they're called or
No.
who did them,
I'm
but
the
I know a
same.
lot about
Yeah.
exactly.
No,
So that
I
was
was
me
just
learning it
looking
as well.
to see because I used to run one called Bailey's Writing and Editing Tips. I think it started life as Bailey's Writing Tips, and then I added in the editing bit. Um, but I can't see when I started it. I should have looked at this beforehand. 2012. Looking at my oldest
Right.
file, and it was
Yeah.
a lot of work back then. I do a Sunday
Yeah.
evening, I think, and I think at most I had 60 something subscribers, and I
Wow. Well,
just got to the
that's
point.
not
But
bad
it took
considering.
half a day every Sunday, and it just ended
Yeah.
up being too much work, and so I stopped
Sure.
it. But I still have all the files, so I could, and all the
Yeah.
recordings and all the scripts, so I could um, reinvent it and put it back
Well,
up.
I with mine, I kind of reinvented mine over the years because I was finding I was still the model that I had for the radio show, as in had a guest on there, we talked about writing,
Mm,
and then played music, filled up an hour. And
yeah.
towards the probably the second half of doing it, of the years doing it, it was a
Mm,
2 hour show.
okay.
So that was either one guest for a really long time or two guests. So it's
Mm,
quite a lot of work to do.
absolutely.
And that was one
Especially,
of the reasons why I stopped doing it, because it took
yeah.
up a lot of time.
I was going to say, especially for a 2 hour finished, because
Yeah,
then you'd have to edit at least some of it, which for me took the time to do all of that. And I used
absolutely.
GarageBand, I think, back in the day.
Oh,
Um,
well, with the radio show, it was live. So with obviously the
okay.
podcast, it's,
Yes.
yeah, which well, brings its own set of scary things happening, doesn't it?
Yes. Can
Um,
imagine.
But you're
So,
talking about the your tagline of your one. I had to write mine down because my head is filled with so much at the minute. I can barely remember my name.
No.
My one, the versatile writer, aims to support and encourage writers and creatives. And it used to be just writers, but over the years I changed it to creatives because there's so many things I do which are creative that pertain to writing too. So it made
Oh,
sense to add that in. Yeah.
absolutely. And you still do it now? This is the same title, the podcast now.
Same title?
Yeah.
No, the versatile writer. Yeah.
But yeah. Um, and
Um, yeah,
how do you
still
so you
doing it.
what do you record it on?
All right. Um, I'm going to be very different here because I'm sure there's going to be lots of, sound rooms and all kinds of stuff.
Mm,
I literally record it on my voice recorder on my phone.
okay.
My podcast is fairly raw, and I quite like that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's kind of echoes when you're writing,
Mm,
and you do that first draft. And there's so many things potentially wrong with it, but at the same time, it's also things that are right with it. So I might have the window open and there might be traffic going by, or there could be a
mm,
bird, right outside the window singing.
sure.
And I quite like that. And to be fair, I'm not technically minded and I don't love getting rid of all that stuff as
No,
much as I love writing, and I want my time to be spent on that. But
exactly.
yeah, all the stuff that I share on it is
Mm,
it. My sister has one as well. It's called her one is called the Casual Birder. She's a big bird
okay.
fan,
Okay.
and she has been forever. So on her one, she's got loads and loads of equipment. I mean, it's utterly brilliant, her one.
Mm,
And mine is probably the complete other end of that. But from that point of view, I'm I'm aware that how it could improve, but her
mm,
podcast is her everything, where mine is a periphery. It's on the
yeah.
periphery of
Yeah.
everything else that I do.
Well, I think the
So
thing is,
yeah,
you're not recording an audiobook, and
no, no,
you're not charging people.
no,
It's not an audiobook that has to then be approved by, let's say, Audible, which would have to be a certain standard.
yeah,
And people expect. I know of podcasts where they've been interviewing people in the street, and you hear all sorts of noises. And I
yeah,
actually have to, because I listened to it on a podcast on a iPod on an iPod, and
yeah,
with earbuds. And so quite often I've had to push the earbuds in to be able to hear it because there's so
right,
much background noise going on. And I don't think people are, if they're listening to a podcast, they expect it to be or anticipate it
yeah.
to be relatively raw. And as you say, it gives a sort of human element to it.
Okay. Yeah, I will
So,
say though that the I was trying to do one a week forever,
mm,
and it became too much with everything else that I was doing.
yeah.
And my sister came up with the idea of why don't you do seasons? So you've got, for instance, 8 episodes in a season.
Mm,
And the amount that I'd put out by that point would have worked out about 5 seasons. So I started it, if you like, from then on,
okay.
season 5, season 6,
Yeah.
and the last one went out or finished in April, actually. Um, and that was season, I think, 16. So it's
Okay.
been
Wow.
going on a little while, and I
Yes.
know. And I must admit, last year I had a lot of stuff going on that
Yeah.
wasn't fantastic, and so
Yeah.
it wasn't my priority.
No.
So I put one out March, April. I think it was
Okay.
might have been late Feb to April, but
Yeah.
8 weeks worth.
Sure.
I didn't add a bonus episode, but what I did do with that one, instead of some of them in the past have been 30, 40 minutes long, but that one was bite sized. It was
Right.
like between 3 and 7 minutes. It was like, get to the point, that's your lot, let's
Right.
move on. And
Yeah.
it was the only way that I could get that season out because there's just too many
Sure.
other things, but it still contains valuable information.
Yeah.
It's
No.
how you get to
Absolutely.
it. Yeah.
Well, my existing podcast has been going since last August, and it's called 300 Words a Day, because that's my
Oh, yeah.
favourite statistic. 300 words a day is 109,500 words a year. If you're writing, start a book now, you'll have 109,500 words in a non-leap year. So you can have a day off in a leap year. And so what I do every day, and I've done every day since August, so and I do 300 episodes per season. So I'm now partway through. I think I'm probably a month into season two, um, and the whole 300 words thing. And it's literally, there's a minute pre-recorded intro, so that's on, and I use iMusic to do it. So that's already there. I have a template. And then I record the new episode every day, and it's every day. So I'll do a batch. At the beginning of the month, I'll do the whole month. So I'll probably take
Yeah.
a day
Yeah.
to record the whole month's worth. And it's a prompt. It could be something like, I don't know, Philippe is excited about going on holiday. And then I'll use the who, what, where, when, why, and how. And I go, who is Philippe? How old is he? Why is he excited? That kind of thing. So things to think about. But I have him in
Yeah.
the back of my mind. So I have, I think, and the trouble is I have it on Spotify. So I'd be really interested to see what you do when you've finished recording it, what your process is then, where it goes. Because I've literally just uploaded it to Spotify. And I had four, I think initially I had one follower, and it's Spotify helpfully said, for your kind of podcast, you'll get the maximum number of followers you'll get is 4. And I did actually have 4 at one point, by which time it then said, oh, your maximum will be 63, I think. And now I have 2. So I've lost 2. But they're about 2.5, 3 minutes long, each episode. And it's just a different prompt, and then pulling it apart: who, what, where, when, why, and how. And so it's not for everybody, but I just wanted to get it out there. So at least at the
Yeah.
moment, I'm helping 2 people. But also I'm thinking at the back of my mind, I've got all of this in a Word document, to then I can put it into a book, and then it can be like I have my workbooks down there. I can put it in a 300 words a day, volume 1 workbook, and tailor it to a book. So when you've finished your recording on your phone, what do you do with it then? What's your process thereafter?
My process is it on my other phone it was recorded into an MP4, so I needed it to be an MP3, so I converted it.
Mm-hmm.
Then I use Audacity to edit. And I use Audacity because that's what was used at the studio when I did the radio show. So I got used to
You're
using that.
used to it.
So yeah, I edited on Audacity and then uploaded it to and this has only happened in the last week or so.
Oh,
I would upload it to Podbean, okay,
okay,
and then it went into the ether from there.
right, and
Since
goes on
the last
everything.
week,
Mm.
as far as I'm aware, yeah.
Oh,
Since the last week, I've switched over to Substack.
okay,
So I'm seeing how that works. Now, the reason I did that was because I'm trying to pull in as many funds as at the moment,
right,
so I'm not spending more than I need to.
no,
And Substack is obviously a monthly subscription,
mm.
and Substack, as far as I'm aware, is free unless I need to what's the word? If people
Upgrade.
pay me to do it, I can't think what the word is.
Oh, right, sponsored,
Yeah,
sponsored. Yeah,
yeah. So as far as I'm aware, what's it called? Substack
Substack.
doesn't
Yeah.
do that. So I've managed to transfer almost all, probably about 150 or something episodes over to Substack. So this last week I did that. That's how. And then this, obviously, you asked me to do this, and I thought, oh, I should really do it before that
Right.
episode.
So you can see
So
how it goes
yeah,
on. Yeah. Oh,
just to see how it works.
yeah. I belong to a local writing group called Chiltern Writers, based in Wendover in Buckinghamshire, on the edge of Buckinghamshire. And we had a couple of podcasters in a few months ago. It's once a month. A few months ago, fairly recent. I think it was earlier on this year. And they do a podcast, and it's about women in history. And so they'd written a book, so this is why they were at a writing group. And also it's words because it's on a podcast. And they said that they put it out on Substack and it goes everywhere else. And I thought, oh, okay. So I have Substack at the back of my brain to then. So you have reaffirmed my expectation of putting it
Well,
on a Substack and
I
seeing
I
where it goes.
hope that's how it's going. I did do quite a
Mm,
bit of research to find out if there was any hidden costs or anything like that.
yeah,
Because my point being, if I'm going to be using one platform that's going to cost me, and then there's another one that's perfectly okay that isn't going to cost
isn't.
me,
Yes,
logic says use the one that doesn't.
yes. And also very well
So I'm trying
respected.
it.
Yeah, and also it's
I
very well
just thank
respected.
it.
It is. Everybody's
Yeah,
heard now in recent times. People have heard of
yeah,
Substack. So, oh well, we shall see
and,
how that goes. I
and
shall. Yes, when I
yeah.
have a bit of time off, I shall put mine on there and see what happens. You mentioned earlier on about extra content because I know Patreon is an option where people have podcasts and they can have Patreon paid subscribers for the price of a coffee. Um, do you is this for your newsletter or do you have Patreon or something similar?
I did try it for a little while on my podcast. Nobody took me up on it, and I more or less tried everything for about a year. That
Mm,
one I thought not working after about 3 or 4 months. I thought no, this is
no,
silly. So I don't have the amount of listeners to make it worth my while.
no.
But what I was doing is I haven't done this recently, but um probably about a year, maybe 2 years ago, I was recording 8 episodes per season, but at the end of the season, I would do a blooper reel.
Oh,
I
nice.
would add all of the things that went wrong, which I
Yeah.
kept in a separate file. Um,
Oh,
if
fun.
I was extremely excited about talking about something and then fell over my words, or tripping over my words, or
Right.
saying it and then hearing myself going, "What?
Yeah.
Why would you?"
Oh, how fun.
And sort of clipping that, putting that in a file, and then adding all the
Yeah.
bloopers at the end. One year it was maybe 30 seconds worth, another year it might have been 2 or 3 minutes worth.
Mm,
But at the end of a season, or even a Christmas one, a Christmas episode, putting it out and just, having a giggle at yourself, because I'm
yes.
sure loads of people are giggling at me anyway. So let's giggle all
Right.
together. So
Yeah.
yeah, just have a giggle about it. It's not a perfect science as far as I'm concerned. It's
Mm.
it's fun, hopefully informative. But if there's a giggle at the end of it, you know,
Yeah, no, exactly. And you want to come across because people aren't seeing you, so you want to come
no,
across as a nice, kind person. I mean, you're,
real.
you're doing all this for free
Yes,
at the moment.
yeah.
I subscribe because I've subscribed to some Substack newsletters, not many newsletters, but one of whom is Orna Ross, who runs Ally, the
Oh yes,
Alliance of Independent
yes.
Authors. And I thought I was subscribing to the whole of Substack, that I would get a bit like Audible. I'd then get loads of interesting
Oh,
stuff that wouldn't normally be free. And I paid 40 something pounds because she's UK based, paid 40 something pounds only to realise after the event that I was paying 40 something pounds to get her extra content. So there is money to what wasn't clear at the time, and I didn't cancel it. I thought, well, we'll see. She's really knowledgeable, and it's the Alliance of
yeah,
Independent Authors, so it's supporting
yeah.
her and the alliance.
Pretty cool what they
Um,
do.
and so there
Yeah,
is money to be made. And I know a lot of people, they say you can make a fortune from YouTube, you can make a fortune from this, that, and the other. So I think, like anything, there's money to be made if you're
yeah,
consistent and
yeah.
know what you're doing and
I,
provide content that people are willing to pay extra for. But it's fine, like anything, you put your books on Amazon and there's a small number of people who make thousands a month, and the rest of us are. I think the average author
no,
makes less than the minimum wage.
yes, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Um, I do somewhere in the background somewhere have a YouTube channel, and
Okay.
I haven't been back to it in quite some time. It is
Mm.
there. I put a couple of podcasts on it some time ago, so it is
Mm.
definitely still there. But it's as you just said, if you know what you're doing with it. As with most things, if I'm invested in it and it's going to work out well for me, my books, my business, I
Mm,
will invest time in it.
mm,
But at the minute, well, not even at the minute, just all the time, really.
mm.
There are so many other things that need my attention that if I've
Yes,
got a spare half day, am I going to learn that or am I going to get on with the things I keep putting to one side?
exactly.
Yeah, there's just a lot. So you've got to kind of prioritize everything, haven't you?
Exactly. I've come to learn over the last fairly small amount of years that time, other than good friends and family, that time is so precious. And now I'm
Mm.
kind of thinking, and I was literally counting every minute, which is not healthy. But you do then come to realize actually, my writing, and I'm sure you're the same, especially if you've got paid gigs, your writing tends to go to the bottom of the list. Um, but we love writing so much, don't we? And so we should always find time to do it. But as you say, we need to be on, there are so many platforms these days, TikTok, YouTube, etc., Instagram, and
Yeah.
so on.
Never
How do we find the time to do? Is it better to concentrate on one area and forget the rest, or ideally we have active profiles on them all, but I think we have to be realistic.
I don't, I'm not a TikTok. I don't, there's some things that I don't mind being on and other things that seem to be very labor intensive.
Mm,
And while I don't mind putting the odd video up of maybe an event that's coming up or a residency I'm doing, and I can just put that on Instagram and let it filter
mm,
through and populate all the other ones.
yeah,
Um, TikTok to me just feels like it's a bit heavy on labor,
yeah,
trying to get it right, I just feel like it's another one I've got to learn. So
mm,
I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, and LinkedIn, and I feel like that's probably on Threads, but that
threads.
filters through anyway.
I
I
I
don't
yes,
literally
because
put
I
something
I
on it.
see when you tag me in on threads, so I
Yeah,
see you are
yeah.
active on that. Yeah. Well,
Only because I've filtered it through from Instagram, not because I've
oh,
deliberately
okay.
gone out and put something on
Yeah,
Threads.
that
Yeah,
that's pretty much how all my threads appears, because
yeah.
it's defaulted to copy in. But I joined TikTok, I think probably about 18 months ago, and put when back in the day when there were 27 author spotlights, there are 74 now, and I just put a promotion, not even me speaking, it was just a promotional video on Canva, and about that, and it got quite a few hits. No, I don't think any comments, but got quite a few hits in the low-ish hundreds. And then I did nothing for about a year, and then you keep hearing TikTok, and so I then decided for a week that I would go round. When I was taking the dog for a walk in the morning, I would do a little video on, and it was only 5-10 minutes on whatever was on my mind, and not necessarily writing because not everybody wants to hear about writing all the time, but about you. I know from your newsletter, you do newsletters, not always necessarily going to be saying I've got a new book out or I've been doing this. People want to know about you as well as how your writing's
Yeah.
going. And so I thought just talk about, and I was in the process of doing quite well with losing weight because we've got 2 family holidays this year. And so one of the episodes I know was on literally 5 or 10 minutes on losing weight, and I did 4 consecutive days, and went back on TikTok to see whether I was getting any comments. And I then that evening I spent 2 hours blocking. Sorry, any Americans watching this, but American widowed army majors who their entire comments were "You're so gorgeous, beautiful," all this, and I spent 2 hours over those 4 videos blocking all these profiles. And I thought I don't want to spend my time doing this. So, but
No,
I'm teaching at Swanwick, as you are this year,
yeah.
aren't you? Up in
We
Derbyshire
have
in
to do the
August.
selfie together. We have to.
Yes, absolutely. And so Keith, the chair, has asked me to do, I don't know whether he sent you an email as well, sent all the tutors an email, um, asking me, because one of the other tutors has done a promotional video on their course, for their course on TikTok. And so would I do something similar? So I go, yes, no problem, thinking, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And so I haven't got round to it yet, but I will. It's on my jobs list after Capital Crime. I'm off to Capital Crime Thursday afternoon, Friday, Saturday, down in London this coming weekend. So, and I've got a book to get back before then. And so after the weekend, I'm in the process of editing. I've collated the stories for the Swanwick anthology, mostly short stories and poetry, and which I don't know if you've put your name forward for. And so I'm collating that.
I may have missed it.
Okay. And then so Monday, Tuesday is editing that. And then I've got a feedback to give a current client on her latest edit of her book on Wednesday, Thursday. And then I'm free for a chunk of that thereafter. So then I can do my TikTok video and all the other things are on my list. So yes, so I shall throw myself back on TikTok for this.
On
But,
Thursday this week, I've got the Society of Authors Summer Gathering
oh,
up
nice.
in London, and then on Friday I've got a friend's book launch. So that's Thursday and Friday taken care of. And
Yes.
it's just this week has just already flown by, you know.
Mm.
Back to podcasts though, you were saying earlier about the whether or not, you know, it's highly edited or if it's raw or, you know, what it is.
Mm.
When it comes to you were saying earlier on as we first started about people's attention spans aren't brilliant
Yeah.
nowadays. And part of that irritates me because there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to just read. We can read a novel, can't we? So
Yes,
why
absolutely.
does everything else have to be like, you know, a bite size?
Yeah.
So when it comes to podcasts, I do try to vary them. So it depends on the topic, of course, because you can't, you know, talk for 3 hours about a semicolon or something, can you?
No, I'm sure we could. I'm
Well,
sure
you
we
probably
could once
can,
we
but
got going. Being
challenge
editors.
accepted. But yeah, when it's trying to get something to be a particular length, you don't necessarily want every episode to be 3 minutes. You don't want every episode to be a half an hour. So
No.
kind of varied and keeping people's attention for that time. You're saying earlier about, you know, being real, being who you are. So it's not
Yes.
your necessarily your book that you're selling.
No.
It's you. You're selling you,
Yeah. No.
and
Absolutely.
people hopefully like what they hear.
Yeah.
Um, it's the same with you're saying about books that we try so hard to get people's attention so that once we've got the attention,
Mm.
we can then talk about everything else. But it's getting attention,
Mm.
trying to grab it and just hold it for just 1 second. I'm just going
Mm.
to speak and then speak. But you
Yeah.
know, you do feel like a bit of a dancing monkey, don't you? Just trying to get the attention in the first place, and
Mm.
it takes away from writing, and that's kind of what we're meant to be doing. But all this marketing surrounding it, this
Mm.
freebie periphery stuff surrounding the books is almost a headache. You know, it gets to the
Yes.
stage where you think, just take a minute. All I want to do is just say this is out or this is about to come out, or talk
Yeah.
about the I've done that before actually, written a novel and then used the episode to as a kind of a therapy session, talk to myself really about
Mm.
what it was about the novel that made it into its own, how I
Yeah.
created it and made it and made there was one book I wrote that there was two casts and they mirrored each other, but I had to kind of say it out loud so I can hear myself say it. And it's similar with nonfiction, you know, having it structured in a way that it flows,
Mm.
but not everyone's it's going to be a dip in and out kind of book. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter with nonfiction necessarily how it's structured, but it still needs to be structured in a way that it makes some sense.
Mm.
And trying to sort of talk and add all of that to a podcast
Mm.
and make it engaging and make people want to come back to listen to the next episode, not go, well, that was a pain. I
Yeah.
want to listen to that again and
Well,
never come back.
Yeah. I mean, you would hope the fact that people have, even if they've not subscribed, they've discovered your episode, and they're there because it's like buying a self-help book. They're there because they see you as as knowledgeable in your field, and they want to learn something. And with all of these, I love the fact that when ebooks were and phones, the Kindle app and other apps on phones has brought short stories back to the fore, that people are enjoying reading short and long, obviously longer pieces. But there is on any device there is a pause and play button. So I think yes, it's nice to have different lengths for variety. But if people are interested, they can pause it. If they've only got half an hour and it's an hour episode, you'd think as long as you say, you're engaging them for the hour. But I think they wouldn't be there in the first place if they weren't interested in the topic
Yeah,
and
yeah,
what you have to
yeah.
say. Um, so, what do you see the future of podcasts? Because they seem to be so many more than they used to be. It's almost like audiobooks have just
Yeah,
blown up over the past. I think audio has blown up over the past
yeah,
few
yeah, I
years
agree.
because people are on the
Because
move.
audiobooks,
When they're on the move, it's easy,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
No
I think
devices.
audiobooks were really popular and then they almost died a death. Then podcasts
Mm,
came along, blew up, and audiobooks blew up with them.
mm,
Um, and I mean, years ago, audiobooks would have been a cassette that you'd get, not a cassette, well, it would have been a cassette, it would have been
mm,
a CD you'd get from the library or
mm.
pay an extortionate amount of money from a bookshop and, buy a whole box set of a series for like £100. You're thinking, who's got that kind of money for a book?
Yes.
So, when it comes to having everything digital, that hugely reduced the cost and it made it much more accessible. And
Yeah.
then as I said, when I finished towards the end of the radio show, podcast became a thing. And then
Mm.
BBC, for instance, started doing podcasts and I think what their one's called, but um, inviting people on so they can talk about their podcast or in fact anything creative.
Sure.
And community radio stations as well started getting more podcasts available. So you could record your show and put it out there and all the rest of it. But it kind of happened around the same time that audiobooks died a death but didn't quite go. Do you remember talking newspapers?
Yes.
Because they're still around, but
Yes.
very few people talk about them, but they're still around. It's
Yeah.
the same kind of thing. It's audio, and people are going to be listening more to it because they've. It's not necessarily about disability. It's more
Mm.
about accessibility
Yeah,
for everybody.
exactly. Yes. And now we've got these smart speakers. I haven't switched mine off, so
Yeah,
I daren't say the name. Um, they can play things to you. You know, play my latest Kindle book, and they'll play it while people are cooking or they're walking the dog or something. I think because we have all these devices now, it can only be a good thing, and that people are going to be more interested in what we have to say. And there is the saying that there is a book inside everybody. And I think with the advent of self-publishing, and now it's got less of a bad name. It's still a struggle, as we know, as self-published authors. But I think there is more respect for self-publishing, but we need to keep the quality there. And so I
yeah,
think people are reading more than ever. And book swap libraries. This is why I started Self Pub Fest,
mm,
because I knew we had a really good community in the Aylesbury area. Because we have about 30 different in the villages and towns. We've got about 30 book swap libraries, and I go to them every other weekend and top them up, tidy them up, and sometimes they're half, three-quarter empty. Not ideal because in theory some of them, especially the ones I set up, are supposed to be book swaps. So you bring one and take
yeah.
one. But really, as long
Not
as
book
somebody, even if they're not taking them for themselves, somebody is ultimately going to read the book. Otherwise, why take it? And so it's getting people back into reading. And we were worried, weren't we, as a community, when ebooks came out that it was going to kill paperbacks. But I think it's just got people into reading, and people love paper. So
Yes.
I think it's
So
it's
that's an
helped.
interesting that, that's an interesting one because when ebooks first came out, I'd written quite a lot of books at that point, and I didn't like it. I didn't like the fact that it was going away from paper.
Mm,
And it probably took me about maybe 2 or 3 years for me to realize that it wasn't the enemy
no.
and there was another audience out there. And if we exploit it for ourselves,
Mm,
there's other audience who will only listen to ebooks. They won't touch the physical book.
mm,
That they're going to find your book too. But it took me a long time to realize that because
mm,
I was just so focused on I'm all about paper
mm,
and not anything else.
mm.
And then, I mean, audiobooks, is a lot more accessible now. I've kind of um, done a few in as much as not as it is now, but one of my books I read and is a chapter each week on my podcast, an early episode or several early episodes. So
Mm.
technically that is an audio book, but it's not an audio book as we see it.
Right.
And quite some time ago, like 2009 or something, I co-authored an anthology, which it was sponsored by the radio station I was with, and they put it onto a cassette, which we sold for. It was a Help for Heroes actually. So that was on an audio book on cassette. It was short stories, and it was recorded by voice actors,
Right.
not big names, all local people
No.
who
Yeah. Sure.
wanted to get into that industry. So
Yeah.
it was very much a community project, and that was
Lovely.
essentially another audio book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I remember going to Spain, going to Malaga for with girlfriends for a 2 week holiday, and they were very much stay in the bar, whereas I like to go and explore, and I was there because they were just wanted to lounge for 2 weeks, and we did go off in the evenings, but not very, only to another bar further along, and so I spend a lot of the time reading, and luckily we were staying in a friend's house, and then they had one wall was just full of books. And I remember I'd taken a cassette, a Walkman, with audio books on cassette. It might have been CD, but it's 2001, so probably not. And maybe, yeah, probably actually CD. And I'd got through all the books that I'd taken, and ended up borrowing books from the bookshelf in the lounge, and reading more of that. But the fact that I could have it, I didn't want to take paperback beyond paperbacks, so I had them on cassette or CD. Might have been CD at the time. But the fact that we can take so many books on a device is fantastic. And I have a Kindle Fire which reads it out to me. So when I get sent a book to pull apart, I'll drag and drop into the Kindle app, and then it reads it back to me. And with my own work, it's Word documents. It reads it as it's written. And so again, it's listening to it, and I think we enjoy listening, rather than not instead of, because I look at the screen as I'm listening to it. But it's a really handy
Yeah.
device.
I'm probably one of the few writers that actually doesn't have an e-reader.
Right.
Um, I for me it's either a paperback or it's audio because that's the only two
Yeah.
ways that I can absorb. If I've got a lot on,
Yeah.
I can't continue looking at a screen forever and a day.
No.
I need to hear it in another way.
Yes.
And
No, I'm a
sometimes
lover of,
if I'm
I was going to say I'm a lover of charity shops, and so I go to the CD bit, with the ones that still have CDs, because some of them have stopped. And I'm always on the lookout for audiobooks. And then I download them onto my computer and then put them on my iPod and listen to them. So if I'm going away, I'll either load them up onto my Kindle, and that I just plug either Bluetooth earphones or plug a old style earphones into it and listen to it. It's a bit robotic, but listen to it that way. I do prefer the proper audiobooks, proper narrated audiobooks. I
and there are
mentor.
so many actors that do it, and there's so many voices, like tones of voice. and I'm drawn to.
Yeah.
Samuel West, who's an amazing voice narrator as well as actor. He's
Mm,
just got the most amazing voice. No matter what he narrates, is brilliant. And
yes.
certain other ones as well. You think, well, if he's doing it, I've just got to listen to it. You know what I mean? It's great. Yeah,
Because there are podcasts that are stories. So BBC Short Story Competition,
yeah,
when they I think it's the lead up to the results. They have episodes with one or two stories each time, and then I don't know whether you can vote for them, but it's certainly these are the books that have been shortlisted for this. And I short stories are my favourite format because I edit novels for a living. Um, I love and short. I'd love to just write short story all day long. To write short stories, and so that tends to be what I listen to or what I read. We've got two alcoves either side of our fireplace, and they're full of short story collections, all colour coordinated. So all the white covers are there, and the other covers are there.
lovely.
Yes, so that's very pretty.
We are crazy people.
Yes, no, exactly. No, I think it's a good time to be. It's never an easy time to be a writer, but I think there are so many more opportunities, and the technology is there for us. But yeah, I think Substack is a good way to go. So we'll have to have a part two, a revisited, and see how you've got on with it. And hopefully by then I will have got mine up on there, and maybe resurrected Bailey's writing tips. It's still on the on. I did a screenshot for the podcast's page on Self Pub Fest. Mine is there, so but it's I haven't done anything with it for a few years, so I'd like to get it back up and running. And I think they were probably about half hour to hour long episodes, but it took me half of Sunday to record it and then edit it. And I did red pen episodes where people would send me their piece of flash fiction and I'd read it and pull it apart and give feedback on it, which was very gracious of them, letting me do that. But they loved the fact, and quite a few of them were in America, so they loved the fact that I was reading their story and giving them feedback on it. So that could be a spin
So
off.
the
Yes.
Yeah, with editing the podcast, I generally find however long it is, it takes twice as long to edit it.
Mm.
So the shorter the better, really.
Mm.
So if you've got, if you're pushed for time, because if you've got a whole season to get through, if you've recorded one and it's half an hour, that's at least an hour of editing. And
Yes.
so you can easily get through a day.
Mm. Because you've got to listen to it back anyway, even if for that, I suppose, even if you think it went okay, but maybe you just need to tweak a little bit. But yes, it comes down to time again, I think. Gia, we've mentioned about audiobooks. Will any of yours come out in as an audiobook? Something
Would
you,
really like, yeah, I would really like something like that. I mean, in an absolute ideal world, I mean, I'd be rolling in money in an ideal world, but in an ideal world, I would really like a couple of my novels to become movies. That's what I would love. I
yeah,
really would.
silver
I
film
think that
rights.
would, because in my mind, they're already movies, and it's just a matter of
Mm,
letting other people enjoy, well, not enjoy, but just experience the pleasure and enjoyment that I've had creating
yes,
them. So, I feel like they ought to be movies. But yeah, I'd be absolutely up for having some of them on audio, I think. Yeah.
because you record. I know you don't. You said you don't have a sound room, as I don't either. There are things like ACX, the Amazon Audible. There is the
Yeah.
opportunity for us to do our own. I know it then has to go
Yeah.
through a vetting process. Have you ever thought about who you'd like to narrate if it weren't you? Who might you like to narrate your audiobooks?
I haven't ever given any thought to that. I know that I couldn't. I'm physically not able. My voice wouldn't last very long.
Mhm.
But well, a lot. This is a really interesting question you've thrown this way, Morgan. Right. Quite a lot of my novels are either based in America or they are half in America, half in London.
Okay.
And I can like the one before, so Dream State, that was two stories in one. One was happening in London, one was happening in Boston, Massachusetts.
Okay.
The one I've just finished, which is currently being edited, is based in Los Angeles, but with an English writer and an American hero.
Okay.
Um, so again, we'd have to choose an English voice and an American
Yes.
voice that would fit
Yes.
the characters. You couldn't just pluck one out of the air and go, that'll do. It wouldn't.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, things like that. But I know somebody recently who's having their book made into an audio book, and they had a like an interview kind of thing
Yes.
with the or
Yes.
an audition, if you like,
Put it
with
out.
the
Yes.
voice
Put it out
artist.
to
So
tender
so
almost.
they got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the past, I said to you about the cassette that I had done, not the cassette, sorry, the CD that I had for that audiobook. Years ago, my daughter was doing a lot of voice artists, and she's done loads of acting over the years. And she did some voice artistry for that particular book, and a couple of her friends did, and they were all going into acting
Okay.
at the time.
Yeah.
So it made sense to, use that. It put something on
Sure.
their CV, and it
Exactly.
helped me out too. And
Okay.
yes, everyone, it was very much a community thing. It was brilliant.
Mm.
But there was a couple of people who were on it who were actually actors. Like one was from EastEnders,
Okay.
and it was really handy. Just pure luck that I managed to get them to agree.
Mm.
He's generally like an extra, but he was in it a lot.
Yes.
And when afterwards, I was just so thankful that they said yes, that I didn't
Mm.
even give any thought to whether or not their voice matched the character, and
Right.
it didn't. And
Oh,
but you can't say sorry, we're not doing that,
no.
because they've done it out of the
No.
goodness of their heart, and it was for charity. But it wasn't who
Yes.
the actor, sorry, it wasn't who the character was meant to
No.
sound like. So
No.
yeah,
Well, I
but I'm
suppose
like a
the
very,
answer.
proud mum that my daughter's ones were brilliant.
Well, I suppose if the BBC came to us and said we love your books, we would love a full cast dramatisation of your books. We wouldn't go no, would we? We go yeah,
No,
please, yeah.
no, not at all.
Help yourself. Which
Yeah,
ones would you like?
yeah,
No, exactly.
yeah.
But yes, I think
Um,
it's
and actually, interestingly, well, it might not be interesting actually. It might just be a mum thing. But I have, in all of my novels, because I knew my doctor was going to do acting at some point, just like a side gig. In all of my novels, there is a character that she could play, and I don't know if it was a movie, and I don't know if that was subconscious or if that was something I did deliberately. But there is always someone that she can play, and
oh,
I've written it that way.
yes. Oh well, fingers crossed when the time comes. Yes, absolutely. There's an opportunity. So where do you see your podcast going? You'll carry on with your seasons because it's you've done a lot so far.
Yeah, I don't think I'd stop unless
No,
it
you
just
always
got
find
way too.
you always find topics to talk about.
Oh gosh, yeah. And
Mm.
actually, I I always find topics to talk about, but I often find them when I'm least expecting them. So
Okay.
I can maybe hear something or read an article and suddenly feel quite strongly about something. So I'll make a note
Mm.
in one of my, oh my God, what, six different notebooks,
Right.
um, and write down, season 17, episode one can be
Mm.
about this, and write a few notes.
Right.
And then when something else come into my mind, and I put episode two can be this. So I do try to plan ahead and use them as prompts, so that when I go back to looking at what I've, the documents that I've saved, so I can write out a script and then read it.
Mm.
I've got an idea, and then I'll use it as a prompt. And it doesn't take a lot to use that prompt and then go off on one. I'm not
Yeah.
venting necessarily, but I try to. I think if I'm not irritated, but if something strikes me as worth discussing,
Yes.
then isn't that likely to make somebody else think about discussing it?
Absolutely.
So it's not just a
Absolutely.
me thing. It's if it affects me, it affects everybody,
Yeah.
doesn't
No,
it?
exactly. I think we are in a challenging and challenged industry.
Yeah,
It's always been difficult to get into. I mean, luckily now we don't have, if we want to submit to agents, it's a press of a button. change the name and address and the email address and so on. But it's more difficult to get where you want to be these days, and because there are so many more fish in the pond than there ever used to
Yeah.
be. But
But
equally, I was going to say
you've only
equally,
got to get just that one thing, haven't you? That your face fits or the story fits what they're after.
it's a lot of luck and determination. I say that successful authors are ones who haven't given up. And on my blog, I've interviewed over 700 authors. This was sort of from 2011 to, I don't know when I stopped, 2019 probably, 2018, something like that. And I was doing 2 a day at one point. And it was just, I send out a template, people answer the questions, and then I would go, and it took me a year to get to the point where I thought, I'm not earning any money. And my funds are pretty much, I'd quit my day job to write full time, and I ended up for almost a year, I think it was 9 months, March to Christmas time pretty much, just doing these free interviews. And as soon as I said, right, now they're going to be £30 each, that stopped. I think I've only ever had one person who wanted to pay £30 to do an interview. And I was doing too. So I'd send out the template, they'd fill in their answers, I'd read them and add in bits as if we were chatting. This was all before
Yeah.
Zoom. And in that, of those 700 and something, and every 100th I'd have somebody famous. So Mark Billingham was one, Anne Cleeves was another,
Yeah.
Katie Ford was another, I think Sue Moorcroft was another. And other people in between. Peter F. Hamilton, sci-fi writer, he was another one. And in all that time since then, I've had 3 people ask me to pull their interviews because they don't write anymore, and each one I think is
Well,
really sad because they don't want
yeah.
anything to do with anything writing related up there. And so I have pulled them for them because they've asked me to, but I just think it's sad. And I mean, that's 3 out of 700 and something. So hopefully the other 600 or 700 and something is still going. But I just think it's sad, and whenever anybody stops, they just don't want any presence out there anymore,
Well, so
which is
sad,
sad.
yeah. But there's books like this. So, that is a legacy, isn't it?
Yeah. But I think we are at the I know when going to Harrogate or any of these events, and the Society of Authors for you on Thursday, and Capital Crime for me. It's a wonderful industry to be in. Everybody's lovely, from pretty much the top of the tree downwards. Everybody's got
Yeah.
time. We make time for other people and to help other people.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful industry to be in.
It's paying it forward because we've been helped, so it's
Yeah,
time for us to help others. Yeah, help them
exactly.
up first either.
Exactly. Which is why we're here, giving our
Yeah.
advice and talking about podcasts. So it's interesting times ahead, I think, in podcasting as a podcaster and a listener. Far too much. It's a bit like having, because we've got Netflix and Prime, and Apple. Tim watches stuff on like Slow Horses, the Slough House. What's his name? Um, Mick Herron books. They're on Apple TV. I just think there's so much. It's endless. You could literally sit and watch TV all day and not get through all the content. And there's so many podcasts we could listen to from the very beginning. And I know I'm about a year behind on writing excuses. And although they're only 15 minutes long because you're in a hurry and we're not that smart, but they're just, I need to catch up. There's just so much to listen to. There's so many really good people who know what they're doing and are more than happy to share information to other people. So it's wonderful. Anyway, we have things to do. We have writing to do and so on. Places to be, people to see. So thank you, Sarah, as always.
You're very welcome. Thank you for
Yes, thank
inviting
you. You're
me.
very welcome. I'll be in touch with the link and look forward to seeing comments that people have on YouTube. Thank you, Sarah. See you soon. Bye.